You're listening to episode 39 of the Thunder Underground podcast. My name is Trent, and I am joined by Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Well, somewhat good. We ended the beginning of last week's episode saying hopefully we're not here next week talking about someone else like we have the last several episodes, and here we are talking about Jimmy Bain.
We lost another one.
Yeah, and it's just kind of eerie and odd that it's the same age group. Everybody's been 67, 69, and here's Jimmy Bain at 68.
Yeah.
Still too young for someone to go, and it's just a shame that we have to keep doing this. And we mentioned that on the last episode that, you know, Mike Portnoy wrote that letter that this is something that's going to become all too common because all these guys from the 60s and 70s era are starting to get up there in that age where we're going to start losing them. So,
and look what's happening. You know, Jimmy Bain, longtime Dio bass player.
Rainbow,
that's right. Lost another one, like I just said. The gods do not like 2016. No. So, this just...
Or the gods want these guys to come play in their house band.
Yeah.
According to John Crabbe.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. Yeah, quit taking all these guys for your house band. So, it's just, what do you say? What can you say? I mean, was he was in last in line right now, right? He was as a present, I guess.
Yeah, they were on the...
Was he on the boat?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, his last performance...
Jesus.
His last performance was they were the first band, I think, to play on the boat, like the kickoff performance.
Uh-huh.
And then, I think he apparently died in his sleep, like, partway through the boat, and they were supposed to play again and in a theater, and then they turned that performance time into basically a memorial service, which was led by Eddie Trunk, and then I guess the other 3 members there, Vivian Campbell, Vinny Appice, and I can't remember the singer's name.
That's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you do when that happens on a boat like that? That's just weird, and I don't know. That's a terrible thing.
I guess that
happened.
Yeah, I don't know if they were able to, if you flight someone out or what you do. I mean, because that boat was kind of, I don't know if you've read about it, was kind of a disaster the whole way through.
Really?
Like, they never made it to a port at all. Like, because there was crazy storms. They had to go back and dock in Miami. Then Def Leppard never performed because Joe Elliott got laryngitis.
I did not even read any of this.
Yeah, so just like the whole thing was just a nightmare. And then I know a couple people that were on the boat, and they said that as far as cruises they've been on, it was just horrible, and the staff was just bad. It just seemed like this complete nightmare.
Wow.
And this is Def Leppard's first ever go at this whole cruise thing. So hopefully,
they might not do another one.
Hopefully they try it again and get it back on track. But
yeah,
that's not really the whole point of this. The whole point is Jimmy Bain, if you're not familiar with this guy, he's a powerhouse. He was on some of the greatest tracks in hard rock metal history when you think of like Last in Line, Holy Diver, Rainbow in the Dark.
Yep.
Don't Talk to Strangers. All that early Dio stuff is just badass. And all that stuff in Rainbow with Richard Blackmore.
And that's him.
Yeah. And whenever I think of him, another thing that jumps out of my head was, remember, was it last year, the year before, 2 years ago, they put out the Dio tribute album. And he was on the track with Oni Logan, I.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of my favorite tracks on there.
Yeah.
It's just a badass, underrated Dio song, and it just kind of jumped out at me as something that anytime I've seen his name over the last couple of years, that's the first thing I think of for some reason.
Yeah, that's where you made a connection. That's cool.
But yeah, let's say this once again. Hopefully next week we're not talking about someone new, and
I hope not. I hope not. It's crazy that this is happening. I think it's got to start tapering off, and it's terrible to even say this has got to start tapering off. So, I don't know. It's just, it's another sad loss for the rock world.
Definitely. Well, let's get into this episode 39 right now. we're going to kick this episode off with a track from a band called Dirty Crush out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Dirty Crush has an EP out called 7. And this is, I believe, the first track on the album, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Well, the first track's an intro track with the first full song, and it's called Envy. Once again, that was Envy from Dirty Crush off their EP called 7, and it is called 7 because each song references one of the 7 deadly sins, and of course that one being envy. That's just a great melodic track. You know, the vocals are they have a real throwback vibe to them of the classic melodic sound of the 80s and early 90s, and but it doesn't sound dated. And even the guitar works the same way. It has a modern sound, but it also has that classic feel to it. And I really dug it.
Yeah, I really. This is a great track to start your album off with. By the way, and it's just got this classic feel, but then it brings you up to a modern chorus that you can remember and that sticks with you. Just powerful vocals delivered, just great. And that's the cool thing about this album is there's so many vibes going on. There's actually a review up on our site that I did a while back of this album. You can read all that. But, these guys are masters of a few different genres, and they can switch to metal, to hard rock. They can get funky. It's just the whole album is a treat, and this is just a great track to kick it off with. Just punches you right in the face and just has a great gallop, and I'm really glad we got to play it for everybody today.
Yeah, and that's a cool concept, making a concept album, especially for an independent band like this. You don't see that a lot. And
ballsy.
Yeah. And they pulled it off, and it, like you said, it's got different styles, and it's great. And just check it out. You can find them online. Dirty Crush, they've got this EP for sale. I believe it's actually their second album, and all the tracks are great. Like Jason said, find the review on our site, which is thethunderunderground.com, and it's under independent reviews. And also, they played Rocklahoma last year, and I believe they're still taking submissions right now through this week for the Access stage for 2016. So if you're a fan of Dirty Crush and like what you heard, shoot Access an email and say, hey, we want these guys back.
Yeah, it'd be great to see them back.
Yeah, we'd love to see them again. So, before we get into a couple of things, I saw something earlier today, just a bit ago, I wanted to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
Several episodes ago, maybe a month or two ago, we brought up the fact that there's all these little things happening about Sammy and Van Halen that could lead you to believe there might be a reunion.
Yeah.
And, these are two camps that have thrown some heavy insults at each other in the past many years.
Yeah.
And, they've both been quiet on it, but like we said, there was those little things that happened that lead you to believe this is a possibility. And then earlier, I don't know, was it today or yesterday that's Eddie Van Halen's birthday?
Today, because it was all over the place.
Okay. And Sammy Hagar tweeted and said, "Happy birthday, Eddie Van Halen. I hope you're doing good. Hashtag 5150 time. Hashtag best of both worlds."
Really?
Then he put a picture of them two together from the 5150 era. And then Eddie actually responded and said, "Thank you. I hope you're doing good too."
Wow.
Which, sounds like nothing, but for Eddie Van Halen to respond and say, "Thank you. I hope you're doing good too," that's pretty huge.
Well, where was it? I can't remember. I don't know if I heard it on a podcast or read it, but recently, there's pictures seen of Michael Anthony sitting on a VH case or road case.
Right.
And that was that was a clue that, and I guess Michael Anthony came out and said there's no.
Yeah, he claimed that he just has all this stuff and it's sitting in his warehouse and that's just where it sits. But there was the other, things that happened were the Van Halen official website started selling Michael Anthony merchandise and photos again, this like in December.
Yeah.
And they weren't, all of his stuff had been wiped out once he was out of the band.
Interesting.
But they had specific things like 8x10s and then some other Michael Anthony stuff.
So did Dave go back to Japan?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He might have. You never know.
I don't know.
Who
But
knows?
see, there's also the thing that's supposed to happen sometime this year with his original band.
That's
so
right.
They're both freed up. And of course, there was that photo like a month ago of Eddie's 5150 guitar getting worked on. So, I personally believe this is going to happen.
Really?
That's just my gut feeling.
See,
I know so many people just say this won't happen because of such bad blood, but I think we're going to see Van Hagar, if not this year, next year.
You know, and I think we've even talked about this.
Yeah.
There's no real swell going on with this because I think
it's still just staying under the radar. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's so jazzed about Guns N' Roses and whatever, you know.
Yeah, I think that's
crazy.
kind of. I think the GNR thing just kind of took off. That this is just kind of staying right there under the radar.
Yeah.
And Skid Row even jumped a little up, so this just kind of keeps this right here until all of a sudden, when they announce it, everybody's going to be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I'll just be like, I told you, bitches.
You can be over here, I told you so, you didn't listen to me.
Right.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how this develops in the next year or so.
I hope
over
it happens.
the coming year.
Right. I hope it happens personally.
Well, I know. That would be amazing. Van Halen would have a worthy singer again. I said it. I don't care.
Well, a few days ago, we had the opportunity to see Trivium live.
Yes, we did. And God damn it, that was fun.
Yes. Yeah, that's the first time we've got to see him do a headline set. We've seen him, I think I've seen him 3 times before that. Like we mentioned last week, all festival and opening slots. And
Yeah.
so it was awesome to see him do a full-on headline set. They covered pretty much their full career.
They sure did.
You know, like at least hit almost every album, if not every album. You know, and my favorite album of them still stands as Ascendancy, you know, because that's the first thing I got into. And I love everything for the most part, but that one, you know, sticks with me. And they played at least 3 songs off that, so I was happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just put on an amazing performance and just in your face, and they had the crowd going.
Oh man, it was such a, you know, even just the minute we got in there and Less Than Human was still playing, and it was just a sold out crowd, and there was just, you know, those guys sounded great, and there's just like this swell going on. There's a great vibe, and you know, you don't. Like, this was the fucking place to be in town. You don't get that with every single show you go to.
Right.
But this one, there was that vibe. It was a weekend, a Saturday night, sold out show. Everyone was having fun. Trivium hit the stage and just, they tore it up. They just slayed everything. Like you said, their set list was perfect. I think it did such a great job of like you said, covering their career. I even got a song from the Crusade, which I fucking love that album. I think that's their favorite album of mine. You know, that's my favorite album that they do. So it was, you know, they were on point with their solos and the vocals, and I mean, you know, and even with a small club like that, they got in a pretty cool looking stage setup. I mean, it was just it was one for the ages. It's one you'll remember for sure.
Yeah. I think it, like everything you mentioned, it had an old school vibe to it. You know, I guess maybe when I say old school, I think of old school to us, which is when you're younger. It just had that feel, like that excitement, because it was sold out and there was so much energy in there. And like you said, Less Than Human, you know, is a local band, and they just had the place going, and everybody loved him, and we loved him.
Oh, definitely. I got a koozie.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Yes. And we missed a couple of the other bands, but we heard they were amazing as well. And just glad to be able to see Trivium in such a small club like that. And, you know, I always love seeing bands that I really like in small places like this, and it's cool to see a band when there's not that many people there, but it also sucks because you know they're probably never coming back.
Exactly.
But this gives me the feeling that Trivium will look at Tulsa for sure next time they're, you know, putting dates together. So,
oh, definitely.
Just because of that show.
Yeah, and you know, hopefully, you know, next time it could be in, you know, Canes or something. But I don't know, it was pretty cool there, so I don't know, maybe they should just come back there again.
Yeah.
You know, to the Vanguard.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bands we love, Lamb of God has a guitarist.
They do?
Yes. They're
wow.
not. They were originally a
3
piece with bass, drums, vocals. Now they have a guitar. No. Anyway, their guitarist Mark Morton
yes.
released a solo track.
Yeah, and I don't even know really what. I guess he did it for fun and just to kind of put some feelers out there. There's no real title of the project.
Right. It was just his name.
Yeah, it's just kind of an instrumental track. JP from the Clutch plays drums on it.
Snowbound.
Yeah, it's called Snowbound. You can pretty much just Google it. We found it on Blabbermouth.
It's on SoundCloud,
yeah.
but it's hard to find unless you go to one of the news stories, because I looked for it straight into SoundCloud and could not find it.
Really?
But I went to Blabbermouth and it was right there.
There you go. Well, what'd you think of the track?
I just, like anyone, you think it's Mark Morton from Lamb of God, you're going to click play and it's just going to be some balls out riffs, or something. But I clicked play and it was like blues and jazz.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? But it was just so badass because it was just like, just great bluesy riffs and then just like this funky kind of jazz thing with the drums and the bass. And then, when it kind of there was mid parts where it got heavy, but it wasn't like heavy metal heavy. It was just heavy. And I don't know. I thought it was cool as hell.
Oh, yeah. It was a great track. I mean, for me, I definitely heard a little bit more of a jazz thing going on than blues. But he's an amazing guitar player. I think that's one thing I would like to see more of in Lamb of God is his guitar solos, because not every song has a solo. I've always been a fan of everything he does because it's flashy and it's bright, but it never, it always fits the song, and that's really important. Always really liked Mark Morton, so this was a great track for him to put out to really showcase what he can do. And it's just kind of I guess it's a demo and it has that demo feel because it's raw, but I mean, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't do it over. I just like that off the cuff raw thing, that vibe it's got going on. So I urge anybody out there that's listening, go find this track and give it a listen. It's different, but I think you'll like it.
We're going to play you a track now from a band that we played a couple months ago, and we want to play them again because they're just badass.
That's right.
And they're out in Nebraska. They're called Through the Stone, and they've got an album out. Well, actually, I guess it'd be considered an EP because I think there's like 6 full-length songs and then 2 or 3, kind of like minute-long interlude type things.
Okay.
But it's we played the song Decisions a couple months ago, and we want to play this song called Junkie for you right now.
Does he ever really go away? Or do we just subside, digging holes so we can hide? I can still smell you in my clothes, stirring up my head every time the wind blows. I'm just a criminal, subconsciously a junkie by my nature, with no one to blame but me. I'm just a criminal, subconsciously a junkie by my nature, with no one to blame but me. Breathing in so deeply, criminal, subconsciously, a junkie by my nature, with no one to blame but me. I'm just a criminal, subconsciously, a junkie by my nature, with no one to blame but me.
Right, that was Junkie from Through the Stone out of Nebraska. You know, I probably should have went back and listened to what we said last time, so I'm not repeating myself, but hey, this might be the first time you're listening, so whatever. This just, I love this thing, and if I had heard this earlier in the year, it probably would have made my top 15 list, is how much I love this album.
Really?
Yeah, it's just so strong the whole way through.
Yeah.
You know, every single song is just great. It's just so powerful in every aspect of the music. Her vocals are just insanely powerful. They're heavy. I think you mentioned the last one, just almost dark and scary at times.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just, you know, and the music has that feel like, you know, that I love from like stoner rock, but it doesn't necessarily sound like stoner rock. And it's just groovy, and it just has that fat, you know, sound that those kind of bands have. Just all the, you know, the drums, the bass, the guitar all the way through. And not just this song Junkie, but, you know, I urge you to go listen to every single song. All of them are great.
Oh yeah, I've listened to this album more than once, and I tell you what, this track Junkie, it's dramatic. It's got different parts and different vibes going on, all within the same song. It really paints a picture. Her vocals are just, I mean, they're so just emotional and just spot on. Of you really feel like this is what she's going through, and this is what you can just almost see it, and that doesn't happen all the time. And so this track was pretty epic, pretty dramatic track, and you know it grabbed me from the get-go. So I hope that it does the same for everybody out there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely go check these guys out. Through the Stone, you can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Reverb Nation. You can find them on Spotify. You can buy their music, which I urge you to do. Support them. If you're in the Nebraska area, go check them out live. Hopefully we can see them on a national basis soon. I would love to be able to see this band live.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Maybe we can get them on the Access stage next year at Rocklahoma 2017.
Hell yes.
Yeah. Speaking of Rocklahoma, Megadeth will be there, which we're amped about. We've seen them countless times. And
but you can never see Megadeth enough.
Yeah, because every time you see them, it's a different lineup.
Shit.
No.
That's right.
That's not necessarily true, but kind of.
Is
James Lomenzo there? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
No, we've got the original guy back.
Right. Well, Dystopia came out this past week. The new album from Megadeth. And it's the first album featuring the lineup, which now features Chris Adler from Lamb of God on drums. And I'm going to ask you to say the guitarist's name again, because I keep forgetting how to say his last name.
Kiko Loureiro, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
If I mucked that one up, I apologize.
Well, we've got a review up on our site that Jason wrote.
Yes.
It just went up. So go read that, or just listen to what we're about to say, which is a review in itself.
Even better, you could listen to us, then go read the review.
Right.
And share both of them.
Yes. TheThunderUnderground.com reviews.
That's right.
Well, Dystopia, we had Fatal Illusion and The Threat Is Real out for a few weeks, so those had kind of sunk in with me. And I really, I love both those tracks. I really like The Threat Is Real. But when I put on the album, it wasn't like, oh, hell yeah, because I'd already heard this song, it was the first track on the album. But whenever the song Dystopia kicked in, I don't know how to say this without sounding corny, but like, a lot of times you hear stuff and it sounds like an earlier era of a band.
Yes.
But whenever I heard this, I felt like I was like transported back.
Really?
To that feeling, you heard when you first heard Countdown to Extinction or
Holy Wars
or like, Rest in Peace, any of that stuff. Not saying that, he sounds exactly like Marty Friedman or anything, but it just had that same, the guitar that, in the early part of Dystopia sounds like it could have been on Rest in Peace.
Yeah, definitely.
Easily. And then just that kind of set the tone. This whole album, to me, is like, it harkens back to like Rest in Peace and Countdown and Euthanasia, where like every single song could stand on its own as like a classic Megadeth track. And you could hear any of these songs live, every single song just, because when you think of, Rest in Peace or Countdown to Extinction, every single song on there, stands out. Mm-hmm. There's not any filler.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
So it's just like, this to me is the exact same way. And I've loved tons of stuff that they've done, since then. And I'm not saying this is the best thing since then, but I'm just saying it just kind of has that kind of feel to me where it's a complete album from beginning to end. And it kind of, every song, kind of like every style that Megadeth has went into is kind of represented here.
Yeah.
Because when you get towards the end of the album, the last three tracks have a lot of attitude to them. Mm-hmm. Like The Emperor, and then what's the song after The Emperor?
Foreign Policy.
Yeah, Foreign Policy has a real punk kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of reminds me of like, when they were covering Anarchy in UK and like 99 Ways to Die and just that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But overall, I would give it an A+. This is like, we're in January and this is my album of the year so far, but it's the only new album I've listened to, so that doesn't really mean much. But it's definitely a contender for like top 5, I would think, unless we get some more amazing stuff like we did last year.
Yeah. which could happen, you never know.
Yeah.
For me, I think that I think Super Collider got a bad rap. People were like, oh, it's Risk all over and all this bullshit. And it's the fucking last thing from Risk that you could ever...
Right.
It didn't grab me, but it didn't suck. And I just didn't, whatever, that's cool. and that's not their fault. Maybe it's my fault or something. Like I've said, sometimes stuff grabs you, sometimes it doesn't. Their album 13 I loved. I thought that was badass. So when you've loved a band for 25, 30 years and, they've put out countless albums, you might not like all of them. So I just kind of wasn't sure what I'd get with this one. And this one is definitely one that grabbed me. Just like you said, you really get that sense of, that classic sense of, the harkens back to the Rust in Peace and the Countdown. But it's not like... It's not rehashing anything. So it's just these guys doing what they know they can do the best, which is just good heavy metal, good thrash metal. And so this is just a bright spot in their catalog. And that doesn't happen with bands a lot once you get up to, doing it for 30 years. So sometimes bands just, they put out something, but really, it's all about their classics. Well, I mean, this Megadeth, they could go do this whole album and I would be happy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even need to hear the old stuff. You can't really say that about a lot of them. So, right. I mean, it's just so many. Fatal Illusion, Post-American World, I think, is a great track. The Emperor is just kind of this stompy fucking... It's just a cool track. I mean, it's just... it was what I was hoping they'd do, and they did it. And I'm really happy that this one turned out good.
Yeah, that song, Poisonous Shadows.
Yeah.
Has a real... think how to say this. It has a real... it's not like a ballad, like some of their... If you would call Megadeth having a ballad like a To Lamone or whatever,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But it's like, the way he sings it is almost in that style, but the music under him is like fast as hell.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, really cool, because you don't hear that a lot. Like, it was... it was a standard kind of Megadeth, just like fast riff and blasting drums. And then he's singing like, in this real medium pace.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. And I heard him on Sirius yesterday or the day before talking about this track and talking about how they, that he really liked what Kiko and Chris did with, he said the way they both play reminds him of like Gar and Chris Poland, because they have like a jazzy influence to him.
Yeah.
And that's just something he's always loved or something. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get that from it, but I don't listen to metal like looking for jazz, because I don't hear things that way. But, anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
But like you said, the whole I've read a lot of stuff about this, and for the most part, the reviews seem to be great. Everybody's loving it.
Yeah, everything's positive.
And that's got to be great for Megadeth, especially after Superclatter, like you said, which wasn't all negative, but it was way more negative than positive. And I was one of the few people that really liked Superclatter.
Yeah, you dug it.
Yeah, there was like a couple tracks I didn't care for, but with me, Superclatter was just more, it leaned way more hard rock than it did metal.
Yeah. Like,
for the most part, the songs like the title track and Forget to Remember, and I can't think what was off the top of my head, but it just had that vibe to it, and it wasn't a bad thing, but I understand why people didn't like it because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a couple people say this is their best album since Euthanasia.
Really?
Which is not true.
Yes.
Because Cryptic Writings is a masterpiece.
Yeah, that was one of their, at the time, it's kind of it just kind of goes into what I said earlier about, a lot of these bands, they kind of just, they rest on whatever they did from 1992 and back. And if you thought Megadeth was going to do that, no, they didn't. Right. They came back with Cryptic Writings and just blew it out of the water. And you had fast, thrashy stuff on that. You had hard rock stuff on that. I mean, you can just peel songs off of Dave Mustaine. I mean, it's just, it's amazing what this guy can do. And, people say he's cocky and he's an asshole, or, he's saying this or he's saying that. Well, he can back a lot of it up, because, I mean, just the things the songs that come out of that guy's head is just insane. And whether it's Dystopia or Cryptic Writings, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, like, thinking of that back then, what's your favorite album after Euthanasia? Is it Cryptic Writings, or is it 13?
Oh, well, it'd be Cryptic Writings.
Okay.
I love 13, don't get me wrong, but it would be Cryptic Writings.
So after Cryptic Writings, is 13, you think they're best up until now? I mean, before Dystopia? Because, I mean, like, The World Needs a Hero, I thought was great. And I mean, I like stuff off of every album.
Yeah.
United Abominations.
Yeah.
And I love, like, Gun, Drugs, and Money, and 44 Minutes was amazing.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if this has anything to do... I mean, I would hope it... I would think it is, but, it just seemed when Dave Ellefson wasn't there, there was just a little bit of a lull in the albums, I mean, I know that I saw those tours. I know you did, and they were great shows. But something seemed off. Nothing sucked, don't get me wrong.
Hey, there was a member of White Lion there. What's not to love?
Yeah, but there you go. There was
1/3 of Pride and Glory.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I'm just talking about James Lomenzo.
There
you
you
don't
go.
Know. Okay.
And it's just, it wasn't a bad thing, but it just seems like everything was just a bit better when the two Daves were together. And, I think that with all the craziness, of the 90s, and after Risk, they got back to just doing straight up metal with The World Needs a Hero. But, yeah, I would think since Cryptic Writings, 13 was their best one, and this one, Dystopia, just might have surpassed 13, I think.
Yeah.
This was just a strong, and I like that Chris Adler was on it. I like that Chris Adler stood his ground and said, yes, that's something Megadeth would do. That's something my Megadeth would do, and that's not something I don't think that Megadeth should do. I think that might have really been a key factor in how good this album turned out.
Yeah, it's definitely, I assume in any situation like that, good to have a fresh perspective, especially someone that grew up as a fan, and just...
And is so revered on his instrument and in a popular band himself.
Yeah, and I assume that, you always hear those things about Dave Mustaine where he's, not a dictator, but this is his band, it's his way, and this is the way it's going to be. But I would assume that he took what Chris Adler had to say to heart because of who he is, because he's in a band that is as big as Megadeth is right now.
Yeah, and we'll...
maybe not in the grand scheme of things, but like currently Lamb of God is as big as Megadeth, no doubt.
Yeah, why would you hire a guy, I like what he does, I want to hire him, and then tell him what to do?
Right.
I mean, you got to tell him what to do, I guess, to an extent, but you hired him for his style and his, flair. So, for Mustaine to trust that and look into it and look up to it was pretty cool and probably a big factor in the success of this album so far.
Yeah, and I really would think probably after just a couple listens that I would throw it up there as the best, my favorite since Cryptic Writings.
Really? Okay.
Even though I've liked everything short of Risk, and
yeah,
even Risk, had its moments. It has Breadline, which is practically one of the greatest hard rock songs ever written.
That's right. And while we're on it, let's just fucking talk about Risk.
Okay.
Because yes, okay, let's just say it, let's get it out there. It's not really the Megadeth that a lot of people were hoping for. And it's not, maybe it's not even Megadeth to some. And I even would agree with that in some certain ways. But when I put the CD on, there's songs you can't deny. The melodies and the catchiness and the musicianship. Maybe if it was a different, the band name was different or something. But you had some really good hard rock songs on that album. And, I still put it in every now and then. I'm not going to lie. And like you said, Breadline is amazing. I don't care what anyone says. That is just a great hard rock song, and I'm with you. I will fight for that one to the teeth.
Yeah, if Dave Mustaine walked up to me and said, "What song do you want me to play live tonight?"
Oh yeah,
I would say Breadline over anything that I love, even probably. I might say Almost Honest from Cryptic Writings because I don't think they've ever played that from what I've known, but. I would say
Yeah, they've
Breadline
played
with
that.
At least when we saw them.
I'm pretty sure that we've even. I mean, I don't know, but I tell you this
It's
much.
been enough times that I'm starting to forget. So.
Yeah, I tell you this much. I saw them at Brady Theater, during all that with Static X and Loudmouth.
Oh,
Were you
right.
at that show?
No, I missed that.
I think me and Josh went to that one. And they played Breadline.
Oh, man.
They played it, and everybody was just like staring at Dave like, what the fuck is this? Nobody was moving. Everybody was just like, what the hell is going on? And then the minute they ended it, they didn't wait for applause, or probably wouldn't have been a lot of it. They didn't wait for nothing. They went right into like Shewa for, something crazy fast, and that would get the crowd back going again.
Right.
But they didn't wait for any kind of response. They hit Breadline, and then bam, they hit another one. Because I don't think the audience was having that one. But I loved it. It was a great show.
Damn. Well, I went years and years without listening to it. And I actually last year at one point decided I'm going to listen to Risk.
Okay.
And it was kind of like that, where I listening to it now years later, I'm more accepting to it and thinking, this isn't as bad as I built it up in my head to be. It was just one of those moments where it came out and I'm like, this isn't Megadeth. Right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like,
Yeah.
It's the exact same scenario that people have with Load and Reload.
Yes.
And, I don't care what anyone says. Those are good albums, and if they had anybody else's name on them, you would think they were amazing albums.
Yeah.
If that was some band called, Fuck Bucket, and they released this album outside of Until It Sleeps, you would think, man, this is a fucking great album.
I know.
Bleeding Me, Wasting My Hate,
Those are great songs.
yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah,
they were.
Not to get off on a tangent
Yeah.
here, but anyway, back to Megadeth.
And if anybody out there starts a band called Fuck Bucket, you're going to have to cut us in on some of that. But anyways,
Oh, yeah.
Getting back to Megadeth, just like you said.
Yeah, my favorite era of Megadeth, like most people's. Well, I wouldn't say most people's, because, a lot of people, it's the first two albums or something. But, like, me, it's the Marty Friedman era.
Okay.
From Rust in Peace to Cryptic Writings.
Yeah.
Those 4 albums are, like, perfect to me. They all 4 have a different vibe, and they're all 4 just badass from beginning to end. And, I love the first couple albums, and I love most everything since. But, like we mentioned before, I think Dystopia ranks up there with everything 97 and before.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think I really liked the more recent, Dave, Sean Drover, and Chris Broderick.
oh, yeah.
And I really thought that was going to probably be the one there for quite a while.
Because they lasted longer than most outside of the
did.
Friedman Menza lineup, right?
They did, and I don't know what they're gonna do with. I don't know what they're gonna do with drummers, so we'll see where this version of it goes. I know that when Adler's not there, they've got Tony Laureano from we saw him play with Dimmu Borgir.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he played with Nile, and I think he's like their drum tech, and so he just fills in when Chris Adler's not there.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's going to be the guy. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where, what face this lineup takes. But, I have hope. I'm confident that it's going to be good. And, this is a band that's had many different formations, and they've always seemed to, have more pluses than minuses. So we'll see. And, I stand by him,
Yeah, Dave's just like, Mustaine's just like David Coverdale, where it's like,
That's right, yeah.
you just expect it. It's not like, oh shit, here they go again. It's just like, that's kind of what you expect to happen. No, it's a different lineup, okay. But it's
Exactly.
like, it's always the highest caliber musicians possible.
Yeah.
And they always fit, and it always sounds great, whether it be on record or whether it be live. We even had Al Petrelli there for like one album.
Yeah, we did.
And he was from Savatage and later from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and he's great.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what else do you say? It's like, I don't know what to say. I literally mean, what else do you say? You
Well,
go.
here's a question. What's your favorite album called Dystopia? This one or Iced Earth's Dystopia?
I thought of that the other day. Oh, yeah, I start that. You know,
Because I liked Iced Earth's Dystopia. That's a damn good
yeah,
record.
That's a tough question to just like, I'd have to think about that for a bit.
Talk
because-
about going off on a fucking tangent.
Right.
We're way out there.
But that is a good question because that is an amazing album.
Yes, it is. And it's interesting
So-
that's a subject that's coming up more and more these days, you know, with how fucked up things are getting in this country. And
Well, thankfully, more people are opening their eyes to this shit.
yeah, exactly.
You know, we know that that John Schaefer from Iced Earth, you know, has been that way for a long time.
Yes.
You know, he's got a side band that is nothing but, you know,
Shit like this.
stuff like that, Sons of Liberty.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dave Mustaine, in his own right, has always been, we've known that he's 90% of his lyrics are political, you know, and they've always, you know, which is cool because that's what you think of when you think of Megadeth.
Yeah.
You know, so when you hear some yahoo from some band start talking politics, you're like, fuck off. But when Dave Mustaine does it, it doesn't bother me because,
He knows what he's talking
yeah,
about.
I mean, well, that's what this guy's whole music is based
That's right.
around.
That's right.
You know, so.
And you know, like I said, like you said, it's good that people are taking notice. And, you know, call me dumb, but Hunger Games, it could fucking happen. With a lot of these blockheads in this country, it could happen. Well, you laugh. It's just
Wouldn't
a movie,
surprise me, yeah.
But you never know. So it's good that this stuff's coming up and getting conversations going because, you know, that's what music does. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, and another random Megadeth note. Nam just finished a couple days ago, and I hadn't watched the video, but I saw there's a video of Sean Drover and Nick Menza playing at the same time.
Really?
I don't know if it's a drum battle or they're playing together or what the deal was, but it just said former Megadeth members, you know, performed together.
That's crazy.
So go look that up.
You know, that would be another one of those things of if they ever got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame one day, that would be like a Deep Purple thing.
Oh, wow.
Who do you put in there?
Well, you know the Marty Friedman, Nick Menza lineup's going in.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know if they'd ever make it to that, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be a long time.
Because, yeah, we got to get Maiden and Priest
That's right.
in there first. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
But there's another thing. Isn't there a band with Nick Menza and, is it Chris Poland?
Yeah, and I think
Nick Menza and someone.
wasn't James Lomenzo in it for a while, and then he ducked out?
That sounds right.
Something crazy. Like
I don't know much about it. I just remember reading
all
that.
these other dudes from Megadeth. That's crazy.
Which is funny because there's already Act of Defiance, which is
Yeah,
the two guys that recently left, Broderick and Drover.
yeah.
So you could have like 2 or 3 little super groups of former Megadeth members.
And they could all tour together.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think we've went off on enough mini tangents for this version of the podcast.
Yes. If you haven't turned it off already, bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you for hanging around.
Well, like we said, get online at thethunderunderground.com. Look up Jason's review of Dystopia. Look up Jason's review of Dirty Crush. Find our previous 38 episodes. They're all embedded on there. You can also go straight to soundcloud.com/thunder-underground. Find all our episodes on there. We've got tons of these where we're just talking about music. We've got tons where we're interviewing people. Everyone from Warrant to The Obsessed, Miss May I,
Battlecross,
Crowbar, yeah, Frank Hannon band members.
The Sword.
Yes, we're just kind of go all over the place.
We've got local artists, Driver, Severmind, Scott and Jana from Rocket Science.
A couple of different guys from Dead Metal Society.
Yeah.
Including Jason Gilardi, who was in Caroline Spine. That's
right.
a great one because he goes into great detail about Caroline Spine, which we're huge fans of, and you should be as well.
Yeah, we got to talk to Sid Falk from Overkill, John from Sons of Texas. So there's all kinds of stuff for all different kinds of rock and metal that you're digging, and most importantly, share and like, and get the word out because that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah, and if you're from this area, from the Oklahoma area, you might have seen the band Grind around because they've been playing around this area for the past couple of years. They're a great band, and we've got them on an episode coming up here in the next week or two.
That's right. We saw them open for Scattered Hamlet.
Yes.
Yeah, they were badass.
Which I don't know if you mentioned them, but there's a podcast with Scattered Hamlet.
Oh, there is. Yes.
Yes.
See, it's great. It all comes back around.
Yeah, and we've got an episode coming up where we just talk about Motley Crue in its entirety.
That's right.
And we've got our friend Josh that's going to join us on that.
We figured, they're done. They came to an end, and they're a pretty big band and left a pretty big footprint on hard rock and metal. So, why not have a all Motley Crue discussion episode? That should be fun.
Yeah, we're going to base 40 minutes of the episode around the Randy Castillo drum tracks. It's going to be badass.
I like it.
That's my favorite era of Motley Crue, when Randy was on drums, New Tattoo.
What about Karabi?
No, I like New Tattoo better.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, this episode definitely needs to end.
Just took a nosedive.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, we've also got, like we said, other episodes. We've got a couple of interviews in the works. We'll be bringing you all this stuff in the next few weeks. Find us on Facebook, The Thunder Underground, all one word, will find us. Same thing with Instagram and YouTube. And find us on Twitter and follow us there. It's THND. Did I say that right? THNDRUNDR ground.
There you go.
Right. All right. Well, I think we're done, right?
I hope so.
All right. Until next time, see you later.